Sup people, Multiplier here. As you can probably tell by the video name, I'm going to do a super professional review of a Traktor S4, which is this guy. It's a big controller, definitely quite big. Had it about a year and a half now, I think. Tried to work it out. Yeah, played quite a few gigs with it. Travelled around with it quite a bit as well, so I definitely think that's enough time to really get a feel for it and kind of know the ins and the outs. And yeah, it's pretty much stayed the same over the last year and a half. I think they did an updated version recently, but it's basically the same thing, just kind of new logo or whatever. But yeah, should be good. So first thing you'll notice is it's got a shitload of buttons, which is kind of a good thing really, because when you're DJing and you press your play button, so the track's playing, and then you need to like look like you're doing something, but because you've got so many buttons everywhere, you could be just using like the two middle channels, and then you can kind of just pretend to be doing shit with the fourth channel, so you can be like, right as the bass drops, like boom or something, and then like everyone thinks that you just like drop the bass and shit because you just scream drop the bass or something. So that's pretty useful. Also, because there are buttons everywhere, you don't have to kind of remap everything with complicated shift keys and modifiers and shit, which is what I used to have to do with my old smaller controller. So I had to like map one knob to do like 10 different things, like beat jumping and looping, all because I only had like 4 knobs on the whole thing. But because there's like knobs and shit everywhere, it's all just perfectly mapped to Traktor. So you don't have to worry about like mapping and shit. It's just perfect right out the bag, sorted. So yeah, as I said, it integrates with Traktor Pro or Traktor Pro 2, whatever you want to call it, perfectly. It's built by the same company, so literally everything works flawlessly. There's no kind of weird, kind of unintuitive mapping. All the words mean exactly what they do in your software, so just really nice tight fit with the software, which is pretty sweet. Yeah, so what sort of shit has it got in it? It has everything, to like sum it up. It's a big, durable plastic / metal, just nicely solidly built controller really. And I can stick my like deck saver on it, which is this guy. Oops, fuck, nearly broke it. Stick it on, boom. Oops, shouldn't bash it down. And then stick that in a backpack. It's good to go. You can fuck about with it really, won't really break, because there's no computery shit inside. It's just a bunch of buttons with some basic circuits. So super durable. Not too heavy either. Pretty massive. Only fits in one backpack I have, but it's not redonkulously big like some of the other top-end controllers out there, which is quite nice. So you get kind of like enough space to kind of use the controls, because I had a go on a friend's, maybe a Pioneer or something or other, like it was American Audio, I think, like a full-featured 4-channel controller, but it was like that size, and like all the knobs are too close together, so you had to kind of use them in a weird way. But these ones, you can be all Skrillexy and get your like elbow right out, and then you look more impressive when you're like dropping the bass. Just pretty good. So yeah, I'm not going to run you through what each of the buttons does, because that will take forever. But like it's got the most important button, which is play. It's got 2 play buttons, because it has 4 controllers, which you kind of cycle between A and C with this button up here, and then like B and D with that button up there. But it's got play. Well, you only really need to use 2 channels, or even just 1 channel if you're David Baguetta. So you've got your play button. If you're feeling a bit adventurous and you want to kind of go into 2 channels, it's got your sync button as well, which is probably the second most important button after play. That way you can kind of keep everything in sync, and when you're a bit too drunk to kind of beat match properly, or I don't know, you just can't be fucked, got the sync button, which is pretty sweet. Yeah, 4 channels, as I said, so you can mix all your minimal deep tech, house tech, trap, all with like on separate channels and shit, and just sync it all up, and you can be like blip 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 blip. You can do all that kind of shit. That's all fine. Or if you're mixing dubstep, you can just use 2 like everyone else, which is fine. Built-in sound card. Pretty good sound card actually. I think it's the same quality as the middle of the range Native Instruments sound card. I forget what they call it. Well, same quality as the top of the range one, but I don't think it's quite as loud as the top end Native Instruments sound card. I don't think, but it's still pretty loud, plenty loud enough to kind of play any setup with. To be honest, it's not like the cheap controllers where the sound card's too quiet. So yeah, you got your kind of master out up here. You got tons of fucking visual meters and shit. It'll give you kind of, I'll try and get something going to kind of give you an idea. So you see kind of like how the visual I think called VU meters maybe. So you can see kind of what's coming out each channel, which is really useful. And especially if you're using the sound card coming out, you can see kind of how high these meters will kind of flash up. How kind of hot your sound card is chucking sound out at, which is pretty useful. Yeah, it's got a fuckload of inputs and outputs on the back as well. It's just got like millions of shit. So you can have your C and D decks as like live inputs if you have some other gear, or you have a mic coming into it, or you can have a mic coming into its own channel. You've got plenty of cool little buttons at the front which kind of pop in and out. So you've got your kind of headphone port, Q mix, Q volume, mic volume. So you've just got fucking buttons everywhere really, which you don't really have to use most of the time, but it's just nice to know you can plug in kind of foot switches or kind of MIDI stuff, or just kind of whatever kind of cables you got, there'll be a way to stick it in somehow. That's what she said. Which is pretty sweet. I'd say like only downside about this controller that I can really like, that annoys me a little bit, is as great as it is having like these 4 knobs here and these 4 knobs here map perfectly to the effects in Traktor. There's no real nice way of having 4, like the complete 4 set of effects kind of working with the controller, if that makes sense. Because on Traktor you can choose between kind of 2 effects, like 1 on the left, 1 on the right, or 4, like 2 on the left, 2 on the right. So yeah, it doesn't really work well with 4 unless you did some weird mapping shit, which I can't be bothered. So yeah, I'm kind of limited to 2, which arguably just makes it more creative anyway, so that's not too much of a downside. Some of the buttons aren't quite perfect, like this button's a little bit fucked. It kind of works, but sometimes you need to just press it a few times. That little screen there stopped working for about a month, and then it came back to life. I think it was a humidity in one of the clubs, which is not the controller's fault. When it's a really humid club and then you go outside to where it's snowing, which I did, the water just condenses inside. So I'm quite lucky it didn't completely fuck the controller. But yeah, it's pretty sweet. It's got buttons everywhere. That's the best bit about it, because you can look really like professional and shit. And it's like, you just look pretty badass and ting when you like rock up with a big controller. Whereas if you have a shitty little plasticky thing and you rock up to play like EDC, everyone's like, what are you doing? That's stupid. Get off the stage. You're banned. Whereas yeah, this looks pretty awesome, and like a layman, average person at the club doesn't know the difference between this and a CDJ. So that's kind of the effect you want. You need to look pretty pro and shit. This is a super professional review after all. Yeah, so that's pretty much it really. It's a pretty badass controller. I love it. I'd get the exact same one again. If this breaks right now, I wouldn't even look to change up the controller, to be honest. Unless I want to do something cool with like MIDI fighters or something like that and just come up with a real custom setup, which I might do. But the cool thing about this is you don't have to fuck about with like MIDI mapping and shit, which is fun, but I used to have a really complicated MIDI kind of live-ish setup. It wasn't really live, but I just had fucking like 3 controllers and like USB hubs, and there's just shitloads to go wrong when you got like sound card, controller 1, MIDI keyboard, MIDI fighter, and then fucking shit just stops working when you have that many cables and stuff in the club, and like just USB cables fail, and it's a nightmare. Whereas this, you can just rock up with this, sound card built in, plug in your RCA, whatever they're called, phono cables at the back, chuck it into a mixer, USB into the computer, and you're good to go. There's nothing to go wrong. And yeah, you should attach a lot of value to shit that works when you're playing actual sets and not in your bedroom. As fun as it is to set up cool live things in your bedroom. Just cool. Yeah, these we talk about these things, which all like the newbies seem to like. They call the paddle, I don't know what they call them, spinny dudes. Spinny dudes are pretty rad. They got like 1,000,000 points of something or other. I made that up. They have a lot of points. They're really like sensitive and shit. Cool rubbery, plasticky feel. This kind of top bit's kind of like spring loaded and magnetized and shit. I don't even know if it's magnetized or not, but it's like spring loaded, which is quite sweet. So you can do like a few different actions with it. So like just like jogging it like that is a different motion to like pressing down and moving it. So if you're actually beat matching instead of syncing, you can just kind of like jog it on really easily like a CDJ, or you can press and move it like scratch mode or whatever they call it, so it actually pulls the track back. I don't know, it's pretty sweet. Anything else cool about it? Yeah, I don't know really, it's just banging build quality really at the end of the day. Got everything you need, tight, seamless integration with the software. Perfect DJ controller really. 10 points for native instruments. And if you can send me a free one, I would be much appreciated. Sweet.